I saw we had a bunch of notes for a change.
Yeah, I had a moment where I was like, I feel strongly about stuff, and
So I added a few things, uh, really minimal. Like it's not going to take long at all. It was just kind of an interesting thing that I observed because I have data to back up my observations for a change. Um, and then after that, we like feel free to take it away. I just thought it was really neat that I was grossly underestimating how many active calories I would burn during even a quote unquote easy jujitsu class. And I picked up a polar heart rate monitor, the chest strap, um,
yeah,
because you can have it start tracking an activity and it'll store to memory on the device. And actually did the first quote unquote easy class today with it and was just surprised at how much higher it was than what I had been manually guesstimating for the past couple of years. And just really neat to see the comparison.
um, I was gonna ask you what app you were using to get these graphs.
That is one called Zones. I had bought it 3 or 4, 5 years ago. I don't know how long now. I really liked the way it represented the heart rate zones, and um, you can do like year over year comparisons and 3 month comparisons. Just minimal things that are just nice to see at a glance without
That's
having
really cool.
to sift through data. And I've used the hell out of it, so very much a worthwhile purchase.
Does it work with the watch as well?
It does. So all it does is it displays whatever is in HealthKit. It's just a viewer for what gets stored
Okay,
in
just a
HealthKit.
way to a different way of looking at the data.
Right. And I just liked how clean the interface was. So I can easily get a glance at where I'm spending time in different heart rate zones after the fact. And like in this case, I have data. I have in the notes. I put two of the same workout. One that was tracked via the watch, and one that was tracked via the Polar heart rate sensor. And the Polar is slightly more accurate because it registers readings slightly more often than the watch does. But I was surprised at how close they are, and I really like the, the accuracy between the two because it makes me feel better that I was actually tracking more or less what I thought I was tracking over time. Um, but I like the fact that both of them, I can go in and I can get the same approximate view from this app, interpreting the data out of health instead of having to try to compare between like the Polar app and Health Kit for the heart rate chart for the workout tracked with the watch. I can just pull it up and both of them are listed in this app and I can just pick each one and compare.
And then the question I have is the polar heart rate monitor the only thing you're using for martial arts to track martial arts?
Yes. It's
How do you get
not.
that into health?
So the Polar their app will let you synchronize with HealthKit.
Okay.
So it's just that the app allows synchronization. So it stores it to your account with Polar for viewing in their app, and you get more detail if you view it there because you get the full graph of the heart rate. But it synchronizes the measurements to HealthKit, and so you still get the data in HealthKit. And the other thing I was going to say is just that grappling art like that, it's just not smart to try to wear a watch because
Oh, absolutely not.
it's a risk for you and for your training partner.
It's a risk for you, your training partner. Break the watch. There's nothing good that comes from that.
But I didn't even think about the heart rate monitor like the traditional chest strap style until I was talking to a friend of mine at the gym who started a little before I did, and he was talking about using one. And I had originally picked up a Garmin thinking I would use it just because I have a couple of other Garmin devices. But it pissed me off. Garmin won't let you start an activity to store to the heart rate sensor, the strap and everything, unless you're using a compatible Garmin watch. Whereas Polar will let you just start it with their app. You can only store one activity at a time. That's all I need. After I'm done, I just go ahead and download the data to the app and I'm done. I'm good to go.
Cool. And the data that you download through the Polar heart rate monitor helps you close your rings as well.
It does, but since it gets stored in HealthKit, it was interesting when I did my test for baseline comparison between the watch and the Polar with a rowing workout yesterday. And so I recorded the same workout with both sensors, one being timed with the Polar app and one the way I would normally start it off the watch, where I just choose workouts and go. And it actually intelligently chooses whichever one happens to have the higher reading and ignores the other one. I was afraid I was going to have like duplicate, counting of the workout twice, and I did not have that. I was impressed.
That's cool.
I will say, the Polar, it just gives quote unquote total calories as opposed to a breakdown of active and total like the watch does. And if you're not a user of the watch, then that may not make much sense to you. But it tries to give a distinction between total calories burn and active calories based on the activity you're doing. So your total calories would be total for the workout, but your active are what are above and beyond what you would typically burn for that time frame. And it only tracks active calories for your rings. Whereas using the heart rate monitor, since it doesn't have that distinction, it just tracks total calories for the rings. So I do get the benefit of theoretically maybe 100-calorie difference plus or minus, but in the grand scheme of the number of calories I'm burning per day, that's minimal. It's up maybe a 10% variance is what it comes down to, and I'm not sweating a 10% variance.
Gotcha. That's very cool. I like that. That's good to know, because I was thinking about some things like there's probably some activities where it's like that would be less than ideal to wear a watch. It's good to know you can not get cheated out of your rings by using a heart rate monitor. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it does depend, of course, on the monitor. Like any of them where you can synchronize with Apple Health will be fine. So if I were to use the Garmin and use a Garmin watch to start a timed activity, I would get the same net result. I just didn't want to buy a watch just to have it sit in a bag to trigger a timed activity.
Oh, hell no.
When Polar will let you just start a timed activity from the application. So I get it. Garmin's trying to get you into their ecosystem and really build up their ecosystem, milk everything for what they can. I understand the business logic there. It's just, it's anti-user. It's not user-friendly. And I wanted something more user-friendly.
Well, I was going to say, there's a bunch of stuff that Apple does that's anti-user, but
when you're in that ecosystem already,
yeah. It doesn't really matter to you. I had one question about the heart rate monitor that you're using, and that is like, what material is it made of?
The monitor itself is like ABS plastic.
I guess the band is really what I'm.
The strap is, it's soft. I don't know that I would say that it's like a thick, elastic, suede kind of feeling, because it feels like suede from a texture standpoint and how soft it is, but it's definitely not suede. Like that wouldn't give you the elasticity and everything you would need.
Sure.
So it's some synthetic material that simulates that. I did purchase their quote-unquote pro band. I haven't unboxed it yet. I just used the basic band that came with it so that I would have a comparison. The pro band, I don't know that there's any real difference. I'll see. But it was like $20, and I figured worst case scenario, if this band breaks, that gives me a backup in hand without having to wait for it.
So the reason I ask is that in my head I was picturing, because the image in my head is informed by something, probably something from the 90s or the 2000s, or I don't know, I can't remember where. But I can in my head I can remember being a young man, and I can remember seeing pictures of like heart rate monitors like this that go around your chest. I remember them being black, and I'm like looking at them, and it looked like a really fit middle-aged white man was wearing it, or like, and when I say middle-aged white man, I mean somebody who's definitely not in their 20s, but probably not in their 40s either. And the thing I thought about was like, that picture I have in my head, that man is kind of hairless, and in my head I was thinking like the strap being a silicone kind of material, and I'm like, man, that would hurt me. That would hurt me so bad.
There are a couple of spots that are that have like little silicone pieces, but it's not the entire band.
Well, I can imagine.
And I mean, I know where you're coming from, but like what I'm trying to kind of emphasize is it's like it's just at the clasp area. It's not all the way around.
No, yeah. In my head, I was imagining like a solid, like basically an Apple Watch band that would fit around your chest.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I know it's not. That's what was in my head. So.
Well, I think some of the inexpensive like Scosche or whoever it was that made the ones when they kind of first became commercially available for home fitness enthusiasts, I think they were just rubber or silicone bands. So you're not
okay. I didn't.
You're
make
definitely not misremembering something. And I remember seeing a lot of those.
It's not expensive.
It's not bad at all. It's the Garmin was a little more expensive, and the reason I had originally ordered it was because it talked about timed activities and memory, and the strap being more comfortable in some of the reviews. And so I was kind of sad that I couldn't use it because the feature set, one of the things I wanted out of that feature set is that it would compute breathing rate based on pulse, which is not necessarily completely accurate, but it's good to have an idea of. The Polar does not do that. It does not advertise itself as anything more than a heart rate monitor. But the Garmin is doing it in conjunction with the watch and some other stuff programmatically that makes it significantly more expensive anyway. And so it's kind of a toss-up. Do you want to jump into having a Garmin watch and the strap and everything else to get that extra little bit? Or do you, like in my case, I'll just get my breathing rate from the Apple Watch from wherever it measures it instead of having it specifically for that 1 hour session. It's not important enough for me to know my breathing rate during that hour, even though I would love to know it because I'd love to know if I'm controlling my breathing very well. But I just think from my heart rate data, I can understand whether I'm controlling my breathing very well or not. So, it's a limited data set, but I like having it. I was amazed when I looked at the chart, kind of how taxing physically something as simple as a couple of minutes of very specific and focused drilling in a fundamentals class really spikes my heart rate and really gets me, exhausts me in a way that I struggle to reach in other workouts that I do. So it's just kind of fascinating to actually have data to finally look at from that standpoint.
Yeah. I got to ask you, what color strap did you get?
Black.
Solid black?
Yeah, it's solid black. I wasn't too concerned about it. I just went with whatever Amazon could deliver next day, which in that case happened to be black at the time.
Well, I was going to say there's a red one, and it says somewhere on the strap, it says do it with heart, but they misspelled it. They spelled it with an E and an EA. I thought it would be.
I didn't even see that one, but that would have been a good one to get.
Yeah. I looked a bit further down on the website that you sent to me, and it says there's a point where it's like firm buckle, non-slip silicone spots, and I'm looking at it, and as a relatively hairy person, it looks comfortable. It doesn't look like it would be a problem, and because you also unhook it, you don't have to slide it up and down. So.
Yeah, I will say with the strap that it comes with, I'm not sure how I feel about the buckle assembly because it's plastic. I mean, it works fine. I didn't have any issues with it today. I am a little concerned about the longevity of it, so we'll see. But that's the only thing that I can look at and say, I kind of wish that was a metal hook instead.
Well, it looks like you can get other straps.
Yeah, you can. And I need to unbox the quote unquote pro strap and see if it uses the same buckle assembly or not, just so I know. But what I like about their straps is that if you get one for it, it's like a clip-in thing. So the heart rate monitor itself just unclips. It has like two button snaps that it snaps into on the band. So it just unsnaps from a band and you pop it in another one. And I like that kind of functionality.
I don't know what it's related to, but there is a strap over here that has, instead of a I guess on the strap that it comes with, you just it's got a buckle that where a slot slides into a tab slides into a slot, and then there looks like so it's I'm doing a terrible job of describing it, but this one looks like there's an option for a hook, like a hook that slides down into a loop rather than a tab that slides into a slot. But I can't tell where that's coming from.
Yeah, I was pulling it up to look real quick. It doesn't say for sure when I look at the Pro Strap description. And the picture doesn't actually show the buckle assembly.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, that's a little bit disappointing.
But yeah, I mean, the guy at the gym who has been using it now for a couple of years has said that he's still using the original band. Works great for him. So I think it'll be fine. That's the one piece that feels a little questionable to me. And I think it's just that plastic feels questionable in general a lot of times when you're talking about small pieces like that. So I don't expect it to be a problem, but that's the one thing that I look at that like I maybe want to keep in mind, that if I see another strap that I really like better, maybe I go ahead and pick it up.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad, but I'm really disappointed that there's tons of almost all of the USB charging cables are all USB-A. They only have one USB-C cable.
And I don't think it even actually matters for the H10, the heart rate monitor, because it just uses a button battery and has a lifespan of like 400 and something hours or something like that. Like it's not a rechargeable battery. You just swap out the battery when time comes.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I wonder what why they have these power cables for. So, anyway, I have some health updates.
I saw that, which is part of what prompted my thoughts with this one as well. But I figured I would, because it was unique enough. I'm starting to play with it today. I figured I would go ahead and drop it in the notes for today too. But yeah, let's go ahead.
I was gonna say, before I jump into that, did you happen to see? So you sent to me the Basic Apple Guy. Like I found out about Basic Apple Guy from basicappleguy.com from you. And what I was going to ask is if you happen to see the. I don't remember when he posted it. It was last year, but I think I only noticed it this year. But he posted, or maybe he posted. Lesser known Apple Watch workouts.
No, I didn't happen to see that.
Oh, it's fantastic! It's fantastic. It's actually. I need to go and find the part 1. I found the part 2. I just link is on its way to your messages, but they're hilarious. Because he's a graphic designer, so he's got a picture of an Apple Watch like you would see maybe like in an Apple advertisement with the workout app open, and he's got one for a moving day, one it's like a guy sitting in a chair, doom scrolling, grocery shopping, beer pong, really good stuff, raking leaves.
This is
really
great.
Cute. Yeah. I love unclogging the toilet.
I haven't done a good job of keeping up with. I love his posts in general, and I just haven't done a good job of keeping up with anything. Like I haven't even listened to multiple podcasts in like 6 months. It's just been nonstop focus on different aspects of other things that I have trying to.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
I'm so far behind on all media consumption. It's horrible.
I can imagine. I can imagine that you've been a bit busy with some other things going on in life. So, and getting sick did not help.
Yeah, I I mean, well, we talked about it last week briefly, but I did at least use the time productively to get the remote pilot stuff squared away. So,
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that was beneficial. But still, like, it wouldn't have taken me 3 weeks if I was healthy,
No,
that
no.
kind
You
of
would
thing.
have right. So my health updates are. I think on the last recording I said that Sunday into Monday I thought I had food poisoning, and I think you and I talked in between that recording and now, and now I'm convinced that it was not food poisoning because I got sick again on Tuesday night, after recording into Wednesday, and I only worked 2.5 days last week as far as hours worked, and I took all day Monday off, and I took half the day Wednesday off because I started feeling better in the afternoon Wednesday. I got some stuff done, and then Friday I was out all day. Like Thursday night, I was in quite a bit of pain. Well, I say quite a bit of pain, but I'm saying for a white dude with no health issues or no major health issues living in a developed country, I had a bit of pain. I don't want to downplay it, but I don't want to, I understand where I live in the world and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to, I guess, jump in on that one because pain is pain, right? Everybody has different pain tolerances. It's not isolated to a part of the world. You were in a more manageable setting for dealing with your discomfort and pain, but that doesn't take away from pain being pain.
Yeah, but I mean, but even people that have serious, I'll just say, I didn't feel like any need to go to the hospital. It wasn't there yet. I did, however, look up the symptoms of an appendicitis, and decidedly did not have that. But when I got sick Tuesday night into Wednesday, I was like, I'm really unlucky to have. I'm really unlucky to have had food poisoning twice in a row, and so I find that suspect. So that being said, and then absolutely, Thursday into Friday, I'm like, oh yeah, this is absolutely not food poisoning. This is, for a while I questioned whether I was sick or not, but I never had I never had a fever or anything like that. Other things that go along with bacterial or viral infections, and I got I put an article in our notes and just read that, and I was like, oh, these are side effects of the drug that I'm taking. And I'm like, oh, it was, like I said, it was all, symptoms of pretty bad food poisoning. I'll keep it at that. And it wasn't all the symptoms at the same time, but I ended up having, on Friday, it was the worst bit of it, and it lasted the longest. And I ended up not eating any food Friday until the evening. And all I had was a cup of chicken noodle soup from Chick-fil-A. And going into Saturday, I felt fine. I got good rest Friday night and ended up being able to do a hike on Saturday. I went to hiking at Red Mountain. But what I have found is that in addition to, what this medication does, in addition to, decrease or increasing satiation, the feeling of satiation, and decreasing the desire to eat, it also slows down it actually slows down your digestive tract and actual digestion. So what I found that's incredibly important, and this is only helpful for the process of losing weight, is I need to walk at least a couple. I need to walk, make the effort to walk and keep moving, to keep peristalsis, going, and also drink lots and lots of water. I found that drinking lots and lots of water is helpful for that, and I haven't had any symptoms since Friday, once I figured it out. And so the first couple of weeks on the drug, I'm like, okay, first week, everything's normal. Sort of started feeling like, oh, I could eat less. Second week, definitely started feeling, oh yeah, I can eat less. Third week, feeling it even more. And mind you, so that's like, first dosage, first few days, even that first, before the second dose, I started feeling like, oh, I'm starting to like notice it. And definitely after the second dose, I'm noticing it. And so the third dose happened in between the first two times of getting sick. And I'm definitely feeling the effects of the drug as far as like noticing like I'm not as hungry anymore. I remember that between the second and third dose, I remember I was traveling and I was in the airport. I got a coffee, a breakfast sandwich from Starbucks, and a Rice Krispie treat. And I took a lot longer to drink that coffee than I normally do, and I enjoyed that sandwich, and I completely forgot about the Rice Krispie treat. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like a few hours later when I was sitting on the plane, I remembered, oh, I have a Rice Krispie treat in my backpack. And I was like that never happened before. Like that never, ever happened before in my little adult life. Like I just, I enjoyed food. So now I'm recognizing when I now that the physiological desire to eat food, the psychological desire is something that I'm noticing so much more. And I'm noticing like, oh, I want to eat this because of my feelings or whatever. Like I want to eat my feelings. Or I'm like, oh, and sometimes that's like, oh, I'm happy. Let's eat some food because I'm happy. Sometimes it's sad. Sometimes it's anger, and I'm just like noticing all this. And I'm like, okay. And so that, but before I got sick, I was like, okay, yeah. Until I figured out that it was that the last week when I was sick, before I figured out it was the side effect of the medicine, I realized, I just thought, okay, well, I'll eat sometimes. I'll eat a little more, even though I feel satiated. I'll eat a little more because I really enjoy it, and there's like a psychological desire instead of a physiological desire. And then after Friday, I'm like, I have such an aversion right now to overeating because it hurt. It hurt, and I did not like it. I was very uncomfortable. And so what I found going into the weekend was that I just like I now have an aversion to overeating because I know that like I could really pay for it, and I just don't want to do that again. And I'm now trying to like figure out how much can I eat. And this evening I went out with Becca and her mom to dinner, and like there was a meal so I was telling this to Becca, and I was like, here's a like half, like I didn't even eat half of the meal. I couldn't, like I was full. And I also drank a lot of water to like help, I'm doing that to help get my belly full just so that I can do that. But now, so two things that are really cool, really different about being on this drug, and that is I can sit there and I can look at that I've eaten less than half of the food that was on my plate, where I used to be like, I'd sit there and I'd eat the whole thing. And the reason in the past I would eat the whole thing is because I would be that hungry. And if I thought, oh, let's say I got through half of it and I was like, oh, I feel full right now because I drank all this water, I was like, I could sit here and eat it all, finish the meal and just be like, kind of feel full, but it was worth doing because I knew that later that night, like several hours later before going to bed, I'd be like, yeah, I'm still hungry. Whereas now, today, I'm like, I ate less than half of the food that was delivered or served to me, and I'm like, I don't have to eat this. I can save it for later. I am not hungry, and I probably won't be hungry until the afternoon tomorrow. And it is, other than having to deal with those side effects, but now knowing how to manage them and prevent them altogether, like it's kind of amazing to feel like I'm, I realize I feel like I'm probably like normal people now as far as how their appetite goes. And I'm not like this like ogre that can eat, twice as much food than he should.
Excuse me. I do think it's kind of funny. I'm not trying. I definitely don't want to suggest that this is the same kind of thing. But A few years ago, I had my gallbladder removed, and after that, I had to kind of learn what would trigger a need to go to the restroom quickly, as opposed to how to manage. Excuse me. How to manage the uh, basically the secretion of digestive juices without triggering that response. And it's like the description almost reminds me of that, where I came to the realization that things like a lot of butter would trigger the secretion of those digestive juices, or the bile necessary for digestion, much quicker than, let's just say, eggs without a ton of butter, kind of thing, or starches or carbs. And trying to figure out how to manage eating patterns, whether I desire the quote unquote clean out ramifications of such a high fat meal, or want to avoid the potentially negative repercussions. Like it almost sounds like it's the same kind of thing, which is there's this change that is not necessarily going to say permanent, but it's a lifestyle change for sure. In my case, it's permanent because the gallbladder's gone. But it's something that also evolves over time as my body adjusts to not having the gallbladder. Whereas I'm sure there's probably a similarity where over time your body adjusts to some of the side effects of the drug without having to take some of the same precautions that you have to take now, kind of thing. But again, it's kind of a bad comparison, but it's interesting that it's kind of the same approach to, okay, this is problematic. If I can figure out why it's problematic, I can adjust things to manage it or mitigate it until such point as I don't have to manage it as closely as I do currently, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things where it's like, I think exactly that. Like I'll figure out what foods are going to make me. Well, I think I'm even in a place where it's like I don't necessarily need to figure out foods. I just know that like I could eat anything. It's just that if I eat a lot of something that's fatty or greasy, I'm probably going to have some troubles, and it's not going to be fun. And just knowing it's like the thing that I think will make that is going to make this, or so far has made this so effective, is that I could, you could put like, I could go somewhere and there could be pizzas there's like, here, have all the free pizza you want. I'm going to eat one slice of pizza and be like, I'm done. And like not feel like I'm missing out, not feel the desire to eat more pizza. And I just throw that out there. So that's really encouraging for me. Like I feel like I'm really good at dealing with the psychological part of this, where it's like there's a few things psychologically that I'm dealing or going to have to deal with, or will probably deal with for some time until I adjust. But one of them is like eating for feelings, whether they're good or bad. And then also like, free food doesn't matter anymore because you just don't eat that much anymore. And all the food is going to be less expensive because you just simply don't eat that much. You're not taking in that much fuel anymore. So, yeah. So, I saved the best for last, and that is, it's been 3 weeks. I took my 4th dose. Actually, it was supposed to be last night, but I got to bed and remembered, and I was like, I'm feeling lazy. And it's incredibly forgiving when to miss a dose. Like I think if you take it within definitely 48 hours, I think 72 hours, I was told, you don't have to like adjust the day that you're taking it. It's incredibly forgiving. So I took my 4th and final dose on the introductory concentration this morning, and I have lost a little over 10 pounds, and I've noticed that my clothes, like, I'm not at a point where like I'm tightening my belt any tighter, and I don't think anyone is gonna notice. Like if you see me, I don't think you'll notice a difference, but I have noticed that my clothes aren't as snug as they were 3 weeks ago, and I'm pretty happy about that.
It's pretty solid. I mean,
Yeah.
just thinking about general, doesn't matter who you are, typically speaking, whatever you embark on, however you make it work, the first couple of weeks, give or take 5-ish pounds are generally lost just from whatever change you've affected. Like 10 pounds over 4 weeks is fairly substantial. Or over three plus weeks. Yeah. Not even a full 4 weeks. Like that's, that's kind of on par with my very aggressive, potentially detrimental, changes that I made physically. And that was me knowing what I could and could not do at the time to affect that kind of change, and that was more extreme than I would recommend anybody doing. So that's, and obviously there's a huge difference in like what I was doing and what you're doing. What you're doing, I would say, would be far safer on the body than what I did. But either way, like just the number of pounds over that kind of time frame, that's a significant step. So that's,
I think the first, so I think I can do it in a percentage to make it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think mean, if you start going the percentage route, there'd be a significant difference between what I did and what you did, what you've done so far.
I think at the highest weight that I was before I took this drug, I think the first 25 to 35% of body weight that I drop is going to go really fast, and I think it'll be significant. I think that's a significant amount of weight. But I think that it's like I think really a lot of it is, I think the last 25%, my target healthy weight, my target weight for to be healthy, I think is about 220 pounds. And I think the last 25% of getting there is going to be the hardest. I think that's always the last 20-25% is always the hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm somewhat pessimistic on that number. I would actually say the last 30 to 35%, but it really depends on the person. We like to give generalizations when it comes to this journey, but the fact is everybody responds a little bit differently. For some people, it's going to be just the last 10% because of their desired weight and activity and everything else. And for some people, it's going to be the whole last 50%. But I think on average, 20 to 30% is probably a reasonable number to expect. That last bit is going to be the slowest, most difficult, most frustrating to get through.
I think so. I know that I've said this before. On this in discussion with you and on this show, and that is like there's been a period of time where I've lost hundreds of pounds, but it was the same it was the same 25 pounds. I was my weight would fluctuate. At this around 270, 275. I'd lose the same 25 pounds over and over and over again. And so I feel really confident that I will blow by 275, and it's not going to be the same 25 pounds. I think it's just going to. My expectation is that the weight's going to drop relatively precipitously, especially if I start adding more exercise. But I think I'm going to blow past that 275 and keep dropping weight, and then it'll start to level out as I get closer to healthy weight, just simply because I've never had my appetite be like this in my adult life.
One thing I will say that's a fairly huge positive. It might mean that you reach your target without as much frustration as a lot of other people. It's tough to say. Like for me, when I got to the last, 15 pounds, it felt like everything was just staying stagnant no matter what I did.
Yeah.
And I wasn't surprised. Like I expected that just based on history and everything else. And for me, it was just a matter of, all right, well, it didn't drop today. Maybe it'll drop tomorrow. Like I had made enough of a difference up to that point that it was just kind of more of the same. It was like, all right, well, eventually I'll break this plateau. And I was already, a few months into shifts in behavior and everything else. Like at that point, the habit was there. It was just a matter of maintaining the discipline to say, yeah, I don't really feel like doing it today, but I'm going to anyway, because I know that eventually I'm going to break this deadlock or whatever. I would not be surprised if you don't experience that frustration. I'll be jealous if you don't experience that frustration as well, just to make sure we're clear. But I actually really hope you don't experience that kind of frustration, because I know how demoralizing it can be.
Well, another thought I had, I can remember, I think 2016, I was about 20 pounds away from my target weight. And I can be like, man, if I got down, if I get once I get to 2/3 of the way, like there's just like so many benefits that I'm going to be enjoying simply because like clothes will fit better. The primary reason, the actual weight loss is like a as far as how I look is a tertiary or quaternary reason for doing this. Like my primary and secondary reasons for doing this are being healthy, and also getting my body into I've stopped saying fat and fit, or not fit, but stopped saying fat and started saying getting it into a better strength to weight ratio, because I felt like people were just, I felt like some people, nobody's ever said this to me, but I was like, maybe it's me. I'm tired of hearing myself say, oh, I'm overweight. Oh, I'm fat. And I just started saying strength to weight ratio. And I feel like that's a little more positive spin, because now I'm not talking about trying to be slim. I'm talking about trying to be, trying to live a healthier life, because when you have your strength to weight ratio out of balance, and you can be thin and have it be out of balance, it's prohibitive of the things that, it's prohibitive of the things that I want to do in life. It's prohibitive of like the activities I want to partake in. So those are the two, the primary and secondary reason to do this. The fact that I'll look better and clothes will fit better, those are like third and fourth. And I really, I feel like if I get down, 2/3 of the way to my, when I get to 2/3 of my goal, I'm like, I'll fit into a lot of clothes that I don't fit into right now. And I'm really looking forward to that.
So I'm pretty certain I've used this explanation or analogy on the show before, more than once, but at some point or another, I feel like I've made it very clear that I'm not an overly modest person in general. Like I could care less. You've seen what I have in some fashion on another person before, and if you haven't, you've been a very sheltered individual, right? Like we have, either you are old enough and aware enough that you've seen penises and vaginas, or you haven't. Like at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But there's an aspect of confidence that you cannot forget about and undersell when you change from being in a just non-desirable state. I'll put it that way, because it's, whether you're thinking about strength to weight ratio or anything else, doesn't really matter. Like you're just in a state that is not what you feel to be positive necessarily. When you reach a state where you feel like you have a positive body image or strength to weight ratio, even if you're modest, the amount of modesty you have kind of just changes. Like you start to want people to notice and see. And like for me, it was just something that for me was a very much a hilarious inside joke for me personally, because like the only other person who would know it would be my significant other anyway. But like, we both know we both know, being my significant other, my spouse, we both know I'm not modest. Like, I really could care less. We could go to the beach. I'll just change in the parking lot, whatever. Like, screw it.
I've heard, and I identify the same way as you. And,
Yeah.
and it's like, and nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but I was like, I'm not a model, and I'm like, I don't care.
Right. And for me, it's like, if you want to look. Like, as a matter of fact, come up and tell me, and I'll turn around real quick. Like, I just really don't care. It does not faze me. But then when I got to a point where I had a better self image or self perception of my body, because I was back into a shape that I appreciated, it's like, I want people to look more than I ever have in the past. Like, I don't recognize this feeling. And that helped fuel the drive and determination to take it a step further sometimes too. So all of that to say, like, it's a long-winded way of saying there is a mental and self-confidence boosting aspect to that really can't be ignored. There will be a point where you say, I look pretty good in the mirror compared to what I feel like or felt like before. And that gets you over a little bit of a hurdle. It's a really nice benefit of physical activity in general. And then you get to a point where it's like, well, how can I show this off? Or maybe that's just me. But still, it's that type of confidence boost is huge for that last 10 to 15%.
Oh, yeah. I can remember. So I can remember the first time in my life that I lost a lot of weight to get fit. I was 18, and I wasn't too bad, but I just dieted and exercised a lot, and I just remember over the course of 2 months, 3 months, I lost 60 pounds, and it was really easy. It was all accessory weight. It was probably no vestigial weight. I'm still young and healthy, or pretty healthy, but and then like a guy healthy, like put a lot of effort into my cardiovascular fitness, but I could never get back to when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and you could just, without any effort at all, as a young child, I was like, you have a 6-pack, and I'm like, I know this because of the pictures, and I was like, oh, had no idea that I had such a great body as a 7-year-old, and as a 19-year-old, I got so close, but I would have had to like kill myself to get like a 6-pack again. And I just wasn't, I enjoyed other things too much, but I just remember being so confident and so just like, I don't, I'm going to run around and have fun. But as I am now, like, I'll run around without my shirt on now, simply because I feel like I have to like think about Will Ferrell in this regard, because he made taking your shirt off as a fat guy funny. Because he's a very fit guy, as far as, he runs, or like when he was on Saturday Night Live, he was running marathons. And the reason he said he kept weight on is because being, having like a Brad Pitt kind of body isn't funny.
It's the one thing that I really find fascinating here in general is we have such a skewed version of what it means to look like to be fit. Like, I hands down. So if you were to look at me back when I was 18 to 20, lifeguard, etc., like, I looked ridiculously fit, but I am in better shape now without looking as fit. Like, it's just funny. Like, my core strength now is so much better than it's ever been in my lifetime. But you wouldn't look at me and think that because I don't have the 6-pack I had when I was 20.
Right.
But when I was 20, like, there's no way I could have done half the things I do now leveraging core strength. It's ridiculous how we look at aesthetically pleasing shapes as a model for fitness instead of what it actually means to be fit in the model and shape that you possess.
Yeah. You know, I guess maybe I will say I watched a movie from about 10 years ago called Fury, and Brad Pitt stars in that, and so he would have been around 50 at the time. And there's he takes his shirt off in that movie, and I was like, wow, that guy looks amazing. And so, but he's probably fit, but he definitely looks like he is. He's a model. He belongs on the cover of a magazine somewhere. He'd be a fantastic specimen for anatomy students to do a muscle quiz without him, without having to peel his skin away.
Yeah, the other thing to remember too, though, I remember an interview with, I don't remember if it was Henry Cavill or maybe even Daniel Craig, but they were talking about how for cinema, like you can be fit, but then like 20 or so days before filming a scene where you would be topless, there's a lot of restrictions, and then trying to basically shape what you want to see from an aesthetically pleasing standpoint for the camera, which is just another illusion of what it means to be fit, because it doesn't change their fitness level. It changes the aesthetics of how they present their body, because of the way their body looks, because of the to some level dehydration in order.
That's what I was going to say. I'm sure he was dehydrated when he shot that scene.
And I get it. I 100% get it from the standpoint of Hollywood and cinema and wanting to portray these things. It's just that we internalize that too much as the epitome of fitness to strive for, when not having a six-pack but being able to hold a crunch for 30 minutes without a problem, that's a much better indication of core strength than the aesthetically pleasing six-pack, but you can only hold a crunch for 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think this is where you can look at, like, most athletes don't look like Brad Pitt or Chris Evans or who's the other Chris? The Thor Chris?
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth, yeah. And you got to understand, it's also, it's not, it's almost guaranteed that these guys are taking some form of HGH.
Yeah, I mean, there's a, when it
and
comes
there's nothing
to
wrong
Hollywood,
with that, because they're there to look pretty. They're not there, they're not there to break records. They're there to look pretty. So I don't. That's kind of the point. Be careful. I hope you're being careful, but yeah, that's what you do. And it's not that they don't work for it. It's just not naturally occurring.
Yeah, there's a really interesting book about it's called Intelligent Fitness. It's the personal trainer that worked with Daniel Craig and a bunch of other stars over the course of their careers, and it talks about how he tries to take an approach to functional fitness in order to be healthy for the stars themselves, but it also is developing plans specific to what will be shown on screen, so that you really focus on making those areas aesthetically pleasing for the camera and not necessarily overall health and fitness. And depending on your goals, if your goal is to be topless on the beach and be the epitome of the aesthetically pleasing person, that's an entirely different training regimen than being a 40-plus-year-old healthy and fit person. It's your goals are going to dictate what you're going to do, and there's a difference between sculpting a body for attracting people in general and reaching a point of honest overall healthiness and wellness and fitness.
I think some good athletes to look at. It's like thinking about the documentaries that these guys were in, but Alex Honnold and Tommy Caldwell, like, those guys are ripped, but they're small. Like, they are not big guys, but you see a lot of definition on their bodies because they're doing things. They're the nature of the sport that they engage in. It's a result of that.
Yeah, it's funny because you also can look at stars in the jiu-jitsu arena or mixed martial arts or any boxing, wrestling, take your pick, it doesn't matter. They're all going to look phenomenal. And for some of them, it's just the epitome of fitness in general. But the key thing to remember is that that's their life.
Right.
They train and they eat and work out 8+ hours a day. Like, they don't do a desk job. They go to work, and their work is to train and to do everything in their power to exhaust every muscle in their body and rebuild it and everything else over and over and over. And there's a reason they're world-class athletes for their profession. That's not the average person, and that's not what it means to be healthy and fit. That is what it means to be an elite athlete, which is a very different category. And the problem for most people is they don't think about the difference between the elite athlete and actual functionally healthy and fit individual. And
regular folks.
yeah, I mean, I am never going to be a world-class elite athlete and competitor in any sport, because that's not what I do. That's not who I am. If I wanted to do that, I should have started 20 years ago. That's just great. I love that people do that. That's not me. On the flip side of that, if I can go into the gym and have a jiu-jitsu practice where I'm sparring against former high school athletes who wrestled and maybe were state level competitors and holding my own, maybe I'm not doing well, but I'm not just completely out of my depth. I take that as a huge win and a testament to where I currently am, because here I am able to at least be competitive with what would be considered an elite athlete who is 20 years younger than me. That's a huge deal at 44, 45. And it's not consistent, sure, but the fact that there's even the talk of being competitive means that I'm in better shape than I give myself credit for. I just don't feel like I'm in as good a shape as I am, because it's, you go to this particular gym and get squashed and don't necessarily get the result you want. And it's like, I don't know what else I can do to be better. And then you have to step back from it and say, yeah, he's got 20 years on me, and maybe he's got 30 pounds on me. And those things combined make a huge difference. And so to even be in the talk of being competitive means that I'm doing something right. And it's a tough lesson to remember, but it helps once you back away from that to be able to look at it objectively and say, okay, I'm at least doing something right in my journey to be a healthier, more fit person. It doesn't feel like it when I'm in the gym, but there's no way you can say that I am not healthy and fit in some capacity and being able to do what I do there. It's a strange kind of dissonance that exists that's tough to get past.
We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.